Ooh, what you eating?
The new banana split cookie from AM/PM, all freshly baked with real butter with banana chocolate and strawberry flavors.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Can I have a bite?
Sorry, but no.
But
You can't split the banana split.
not even a little?
Not even a crumb.
What if...
No.
Please?
Mine.
When it's too legit to split, that's Cravenience. Get a 3-pack for 99 cents with our app. AM/PM, too much good stuff. Plus tax where applicable. Prices and participation may vary. Terms and conditions apply.
When we came here on divine mission with a divine plan and a divine purpose. A path meant to be walked in our authenticity. But along the way, life happened. Generational patterns got in the way. Systemic barriers showed up. And we were left to adapt and adopt imprints, stories, and survival modes that were never meant to define us forever. Here, we hold space, sacred space, to heal those narratives, those traumas, those generational and systemic barriers, guiding you back home to your true divine self and your soul's calling. This is the Soul Work Podcast, your home for healing with love, so you can live out your soul work in truth and power. Welcome to Soul Work with Love, the podcast, where soul meets strategy, spirit meets systems, and healing becomes your legacy. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Soul Work Podcast with Love. I am your host, your favorite holistic healer, your favorite soulful strategist, Love Ashley Elaine. I am so excited to be back in my element, in this space, on this mic, talking about all the things that I love to talk about, but all of the things that you need, all of the things that you need to hear, all of the things that you need for healing. This episode, we are diving into this world of understanding the soul of public health, right? We're going to actually look at what public health is, which it involves you, it involves me, it involves your family, it involves my family, it involves the streets, it involves your community, and really getting to how is that important in our soul work, right? Our soul work, the soul of our community, the soul of our country, the soul of the world, and how it really plays into or plays out in how we look at policy, how we look at law, how we look at all of the things that make and break our communities, our government systems, all of that. So prepare your hearts, prepare your minds, get your tea, find that comfortable seat, and let's get into it. And welcome back to the Soul Work Podcast with Love. I am Love Ashley Elaine. First off, I am back from my hiatus. It's been a lot, but I am here. This episode is really going to be what sets the tone, what puts the stake in the ground, the sword in the ground, to the newness of what this will be. I've been really trying to understand, and I'm going to be very transparent. Y'all know I'm very transparent, period. I ain't got nothing to hide. It's a part of the process. It's a part of my calling, and it is the part of what I believe being a new earth leader is. But I've been very okay, I'm starting to find my things, right? Now, how do I put the puzzle together, right? How do I emerge these things together? And not until I got into this master's program for public health did I understand exactly what it is that I was doing. It gave me so much clarity in, bringing soul work and public health together. So this episode is less about me, thank God, and more about the soul work of public health. Less about actual, This is what public health is, but more so about what this means for you. As we see in the news and as we keep inviting into our awareness what's happening in the world as we know it, energetically things are shifting, physically things are crumbling, financially things are out of control. Um, Spiritually, what's happening and being rearranged above is happening down here. So a lot of things are being exposed, which we want, right? We want these things to be exposed. And we want to be able to be prepared to invite in new pillars, right? As I'm saying this, I'm seeing like things crumble. I'm seeing pillars crumble, right? Which are the systems that we've been living in, not just our internal system, but the system of the ways of the world. I'm seeing these pillars crumble, and the people that have been doing the work or that have been called to such a time as this, coming in with the pillars that they've been building ready to go, ready to put the stake in, ready to nail the coffin closed, right? And begin in newness. So there's four different things that I'm going to talk about in this episode. One, what exactly soul work is. Two, seeing public health through the eyes of through a soulful lens, right? I'll get into what exactly public health is and make it plain so that you understand it for you and your family, and then we'll run with it however long this podcast goes, right? Three, the role of identity in healing. Why your identity and your healing matters so much to the role of public health, or to not the role of public health, but to why public health is important, right? And then that will make sense more when I get into it. And then why this podcast actually exists, right? Why I've been building this platform to get to this stage of the game and be able to be a part of what is happening in real time right now in the world. So when we when we talk about soul work is that deep rooted healing into our divine selves. It's remembering who we were before we came here and being so boldly integrated with that version of ourselves that we accept the lightness of who we are, the love and the light, and then we accept the darkness of who we are or what's a part of it, right? Everything has a shadow. I don't care what they tell you. Everything has a shadow. Your phone, if you set it up certain way, it's got a shadow, right? You go outside, get some good sunlight, there's a shadow. Integrating all of it. So what this also means is understanding roots, understanding what's hidden in the dark. If we do not step into the dark, right? If we don't understand what's happening in the dark, what's been growing in the dark, where that root came from, how do we know what's going to be planted? Or how do we know where what's been planted, what's been growing came from, right? So, in order for us to understand our soul work, right, or what that looks like, we want to really look at those moments of deep despair. Think about those spaces of despair in your own life. And then what does that look like on a collective level? Think about a time in the nation where we've hit a deep despair. And then think about that collectively as the world, right? A time when the whole world was in deep despair. I'll give you one. COVID. COVID. COVID was that space of deep despair for the whole entire world, not just the United States, right? So now that we've made that a macro thing, come back home to self. Come back home to that deep place of despair, and then what happened when you came out of it. What does that look like? What was transformed? Because something should have been changed, something should have been transformed for the better, right? What is your soul's work? Right? What is your soul's work? So once we come out of that despaired place, and I'm going to plug a book here, Yoga and the Dark Night of the Soul is a very good book to read if you want to understand um, soul work and understand like what that looks like moving into purpose. Okay? Because what soul work does is it erases who you thought you were and who you became from trauma, who you became because of your bloodline, who you became because society expected you to be a certain way, who you became because of the expectations of your family, who you became because you thought that that's who you needed to be to get what it is you wanted, when really you were denying the truth of who you were sent here to be, right? And when you deny that person, you miss the actual calling that you are supposed to live in. Saucy. So, and that calling is attached to the actual people that you're meant to service, the actual people that are meant to follow you, right? And see your transformation in real time and see and benefit from the work that you have done and that you're putting out into the world. Your soul's work, right? My tagline, soul work for your soul's work. Your soul's work is that actual calling, what you've come here to contribute to society, right? So when we remember what purpose is who you are and what you do with who you are, right? It's the being, the doing, the having. I've talked about that forever. But it's literally being in service to others, but it's we got to get off the surface of servicing others, right? Because a lot of people are servicing others from their people pleasing tendencies. A lot of people are in service to others from a needy place, from needing to feel good, right? But I want to see how many people can service people, right? Staying in their purpose when they don't feel like doing nothing for anybody. How many people can stay in service to people? This is purpose. Purpose will have you staying in service to people even on the days when you don't feel like it. Even on the days when nobody tells you thank you. Even on the days when everybody else is in their bag and in their mess, but this is your life's calling. This is what you were called to do. This is what you were designed and created to put out into the world. That is purpose. Purpose doesn't always come with a following. I don't know why I'm here, but purpose doesn't always come with a following. Purpose is obedience to who you are, that true, authentic being, and what the gifts are that come with that being, that come with that calling, and using them wisely. I want to see those people. I want to see those acts of service. I don't want to see any more acts of service that are coming from I need to be seen. I don't want to see any more acts of service that are coming from I need a following to be able to do this. I don't want to see any more acts of service where we're handing out money or food to people on the side of the road and we got to videotape it. I don't want to see any more acts of service that are coming from people pleasing. If the acts of service are coming from a place that is only benefiting you, that is not an act of service. That is ego. I don't know why I'm here because it's not in my notes. Not in my notes. Why is our soul's work and our soul work so tied to each other, and why is it so sacred? Because it is your own personal map. It is your own personal DNA and calling. It is the most sacred thing because you were chosen for it. You were picked to do it. You were picked to go first. You were picked to be seen broken and then healed in real time, right? You were picked, right? The scripture that keeps coming to me is I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. So God knew us, knew all of the trials and tribulations, knew the journey that we would go to come back home to our divine selves, and what that was going to do, not just for us, but for others. But it's the intention behind it also. God was intentional about what he created in us, how he created us. Why would we want to be anybody else? Why would we want to live under a facade and a mask? He knew your father would walk out on you. He knew your mother would keep you from having a relationship with your father. That doesn't mean you have to sit in that pain and become an evil person. That doesn't mean we have to hold on to that. Right? Because God also allows us to settle for the life that we choose. So if we keep settling to stay in pain, if we keep settling to stay in victim, then that's the life we're going to have. That's the life we're going to get. If we keep choosing to settle in misery, that's the life we're going to get. Healing is hard work. That's why it's so sacred, because everybody stops at some point, and then some people never do it. Never do it. So when we talk about public health, looking at public health through a soulful lens, what public health is it's the effort to protect and improve the health of communities. I could do a whole episode on that by itself because I'm having all these thoughts hit in, right? But when I think about what that means, I'm thinking about how certain communities have been set up and how now we're fighting to save those communities. How certain communities have more access and certain communities don't. How certain communities, and not communities as in living space, but communities as in race, right? Um, have a harder time with living in the mundane, the day to day, than other communities do. So we have to start seeing public health, right? Our communities. I'm gonna substitute public health for communities because I just want you guys to see the correlation of what exactly this is. It's deeper than programs and policies. It is about people. It's deeper than programs and policies. It is about people. The programs and policies are meant to service people. I will go a step further and ask, are the programs and policies that we are living under, are they getting to the root of what people actually need, or are we just making sure everybody has groceries? Are we getting to the truth, the root of the truth of why people are struggling with getting groceries? Are we creating a cycle of need and dependency? Because if we can keep creating a cycle of need and dependency on the system, nobody will ever break free. Nobody will ever come back to their soul work. Nobody will be able to step into their soul's work and be able to utilize their giftings that they were given to their maximum capacity. Create what they were called to create. Service who they were called to service. And shift the trajectory of the DNA of their bloodline, right? Changing diets and lifestyles and the mindset behind how work is supposed to look. We're also, when we're talking about public health, we're talking about the healing work of people. That has to shift, right? Are we actually getting to, like, for me, right? And I'm so grateful that I've met, we call them the public health baddies. The public health baddies. I'm such a nerd. But I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to travel to do study abroad with a bunch of beautiful public health babies, baddies in this field, and we're all under a different branch, but we all are starting to see there's something deeper that is needed, right? And these are part of the new earth leaders. The like we're a part of these new earth leaders. Public health can become very surface, right? Where we're like just slapping a band-aid on the wound and pushing it to the side, when really what we're calling for and what we're asking for is what is at the root that is rotten and no longer doing justice, no longer serving the people. What needs to be uprooted from the ground? What systems, foundations, all of the things need to keep crumbling so that we can come in and place these new seeds in put these new seeds in place, right? Start doing something different, something new. Programs don't always meet the true needs of the people. So, what are we doing that is evidence based, that is going to meet the needs of the people, hit them in their heart, hit them at the depths of their story, hit them in their soul, reminding them of who they are? That poverty doesn't have to be their end all be all just because that was a systematic thing that was placed on them. That living paycheck to paycheck doesn't have to be the end all be all for them, right? We want to start expanding on people's um truth of who they are, helping them remember who they are, helping them remember that there is more, and no, it's not just a fantasy thing. I'm tired of it always being called that it's like it's a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. We're not trying to get people into like the 1%, right? We're not trying to get them into that 1% of being a millionaire. No, we want people to start living healthy and fulfilled lives. And from research, what I've discovered is that when people can find their place in the world, their sense of self, they live happier lives. They live lives of purpose. Who doesn't want to live a life of purpose? So, we're now going to move into the role of identity and healing. From my personal experience, if I didn't do my healing work, I don't know exactly where I'd be right now. I don't know what would be transpiring in the lives of other people. Like, I just don't know. No, I just don't know. I had to get to a place of saying yes to myself and what that looks like for me, right? What does it look like for Ashley to step fully into who she is, what she enjoys doing, and being that whole person? Because nobody benefits from anybody's brokenness except people who are broken, except people who are already miserable, except people who don't know who they are. The only people that benefit from other people's brokenness are people who want to stay in a power and controlled position in their life because they don't have a sense of self. They don't know who they are. So when we're talking about the role of knowing who you are and really saying yes to your healing, we're talking about breaking systems, breaking norms that no longer fit, moving away from, oh, this is how it's always been done, to, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I remember I went through a phase where it was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. This is what you're going to get from me. And that's it. I'm still in that phase, but it's a little bit more refined, right? But it was like, literally, I'm not doing that. That doesn't work for me because that doesn't make sense. Living in your authenticity, right? So when we talk about like how our identity and our healing also relates to healing our communities, right? I'm thinking about when this big beautiful bill came out. I remember I believe it was, yeah, at the beginning of July, like end of June, early July, when this big beautiful bill, like we just kept hearing about it, right? And all of the things that were getting cut, all of the funding that was getting cut for Medicaid, for food stamps, all of those things we kept hearing about. And then on the other side of that, because I looked into what is actually in this bill and how it affects me and my life, me and my son's life, I'm looking at, tax credits for business owners going up, I mean, going down, but like, all, like the shift in that. And I'm just like, okay, that works for me. And, like a few other things in that, something with like the student loans, like the unsubsidized loans, like all of those things, right? And I remember sitting there and saying to myself, and this is no disrespect to anybody, like I've 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 made a very conscious I'm in very conscious awareness that just because I am not affected by something doesn't mean I'm not aware of how it affects somebody else. Let me just say that. Just because I am aware of how something does not affect me does not mean I am not made unaware of how it affects somebody else, right? I've been very, very transparent about a lot of things in my life and what has been affecting me. And I am happy to finally say that something is not affecting me and that I've made a conscious choice about how I want my life to look and feel. Well, feel and then look, right? So that I am not under the thumb and the constant changes and mood shifts of higher authorities, right? But I remember when the finalization of that bill hit and I read a lot of it, I said to myself, I am not affected by this bill. Nothing in my household changes, and the things that do change for the better. So it made me like I sat with that, right? There was a little bit of like what is it? Like guilt. Honestly, there was a little bit of guilt that came up because I know a lot of people that this bill is now going to be affecting, right? The cut of Medicaid funding, the cut of uh food stamps, like the like I know a lot of people that this bill is affecting. So there was a little bit of guilt there because it's like, oh, and then, I'm a black woman. It's like, oh, it should be affecting me. And it was like, just because I'm black doesn't mean it has to affect me either. So there was some guilt that I was sitting with, but there was also like this place of like, I've been doing the work and really seeing how me doing my soul work, me doing the actual healing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, physically, financially, right? How doing that work for so long and how hard it's been all this time, right? I'm following the string of pearls. All this time, I now get to this place of where the government is changing how people live, and I'm not affected by that trickle down. If anything, there's a piece of the bill that actually benefits me. So it was like I was also almost embarrassed to even say that out loud. Like I only shared it in one space, and that's a space that I created. I had to sit, like, I sat with whatever guilt was coming up for me. And I was like, well, that sucks that I have to even feel guilty. Right. So it's like, okay, can I shift this into empathy for who this bill actually affects? And yes, because of the work that I was called to do, I'm always going to lead with love and empathy because I understand what being down in despair is. I understand what having to be on Medicaid is. I understand what having to be on food stamps looks like. I understand those moments of my life where I had to be under the government's thumb. But now that we're in a place where there's officials who are leading from ego, that are leading from this place of hatred and power and control. They're making changes that are intentionally meant to affect certain people. And because I did my healing work, the deep transformative work, did not get sideswiped into that. Now, this isn't going to be for everybody. This isn't a flex. This is me sharing why it is important for us to do our deep healing work. Because when we do not know who we are and what we are here for and what we are supposed to change, because that's part of purpose too, is to change something, then we continue to live under the rule of how somebody else is going to dictate how we eat, how we sleep, how we drink, how we go use the bathroom, how we work, how we live, how we feed our families, what health insurance looks like for us, what health care looks like for us, who gets health care, what kind of health services we get. It has to break somewhere. It has to break somewhere. It has to break somewhere. We have to start moving into spaces into a collective space of change where now we're teaching people how to get off the codependency of the system if they can do it. It's like that's going to shift a lot of generations out of what they've been in for so long. So our healing and our call to really understanding our identity and our soul work is not just this foo-foo thing that is, just out here in the spiritual realm and we're so spiritual. No, I see it now. I see how it ties into what our communities need. How we shift ACEs scoring for Black and brown babies, what court systems need to understand about trauma and behavioral health, what really happens in domestic violent disputes and how it affects communities, why gun violence is so extreme, and what is the actual root that needs to be healed to kill it. Your identity is not by happenstance, but who you keep choosing to wake up and be that is not in alignment with your divine truth, right? Keeping that veil over your face, staying stuck in a space that you know is not for you. we're in a make or break season right now. We're in a make or break space right now, and the world is shifting. We're moving away from this old earth and moving into new earth, and not everybody is shifting into this new earth. Not everybody is shifting into this new space. Your healing is connected to your ancestors, your lineage, and your liberation. Your ancestors didn't fight for you to stay in the system. Look at who our president is, and I don't care. I just don't care anymore. I don't know if I'll ever be censored, but I feel like once I do, that means I made it. Look at who our president is. Look at what's happening. We needed him in office to wake us up, to wake us up to the truth of what is happening and what needs to change. First in ourselves, right? What do we want our lives to actually feel like? What is it that we no longer want to depend on? And then shifting that for our communities. How do we make our communities great again? How do we start dismantling the red taping that was placed upon us? The trauma that was placed upon us? How do we start dismantling those things? So this is essentially why I created this podcast. I think in the beginning it was, and I'm like, a lot of this episode is also talking about this podcast and the rebranding and, me coming into my why, because I'm coming up on 3 years of having this podcast. And I remember when I started and I was just like, yeah, I just want to talk. I want to talk about healing. I want to talk about healing. I want to tell stories. I want to have other people share their stories, which is always still a part of it, right? But now it's like, ooh, we're getting deeper into the why, right? We're getting deeper into the why. This podcast exists to bridge generations, to affirm those doing the work in private and in public, to speak truthfully, even when it breaks traditions, whether it's breaking the religious traditions, the mindset traditions, the work traditions, the traditions of our families, to hold space for people who feel unseen and unheard, right? There is a massive amount of people who feel unseen and unheard. And there's two types of people in there, right? The pink sheeps. I call myself a pink sheep. They're the ones that are the cycle breakers in their families and in their communities, that had enough with how the world has been working and want something different. And then the other type of unseen people who are ready to feel the shifts and the changes, but don't know where to start, don't know how to speak up, aren't being accounted for. Right? This podcast is for those people, those two sets of people who are visionaries, who are healers, who are helpers, but want to do it in a way that honors God, that honors the fight that their ancestors have put up with, that honors the truth of their being, their soul, that honors them in their wholeness, right? Who've come here and who were chosen to do the deep healing work, to break those cycles, to walk their divine path that is different from the status quo. I'm excited for the newness. I can feel the newness. I shifted my space a little bit. I'm excited for the newness of what this space is going to offer. I'm excited for your healing. I'm excited for your community's healing. I'm excited for just all the things that are coming out of this space. Your healing matters. Your story matters. The world benefits from your wholeness and your healing and who you are in purpose. I love you all for free. Keep doing your soul work. Keep finding your soul's work. It's a journey. It's not a rat race where we're like everybody's got their own lane. I love you all for free. Until next time, take care.